Good afternoon. When you go live on a laptop, or it's a reminder to be here, but I go live on a laptop computer, a lot of whirring at the side, and it says you, and it doesn't say you're live, but you are. So I never know when to say good afternoon because I'm not really sure whether I'm just sat here staring at the camera or whether you're really here or what's going on. Anyway, I'm here and it's 1 o'clock and it's Thursday, and that's good because I know what day of the week it is, which is fun. So I'm just going to share some thoughts about thinking today. So we do meditation Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I just have a chat to you about thinking. And oh, and hello, Louise Pearson. How lovely to see you. Everybody, we see through the ether now. We don't see anybody in real life. So it's nice to see comments from people in the comments while I'm chatting, because then I know you're really here, because it just says it's just a picture of an eye and a number 2, which makes me think there are 2 people watching, but who knows? Because sometimes it gets then it said 8 people watch, so I just don't understand all this and how it works, particularly on a laptop. It's so much easier to see on a phone. So today I'm going to talk about thinking, of course, because that's what I chat about when you're here, and the idea of innate wisdom I'm going to chat about today, and what happens when your thinking gets a little bit less or a little quieter is quite wonderful. So I'll tell you a little story. This is all coming from my intuition as well, just to let you know, just kind of come up with what comes to mind, which is great. So when I first began having a conversation with a coach about the first time I came across this way of looking at thinking was when I went to see a coach, and I was really bothered about procrastination. So I had a proper thing about the fact that I was, I guess, failing, not doing what I should be doing, beating myself up. I'd had this was kind of the beginning of this year, and in 2019 I had a bit of a ropey year in that my physical health was a bit up and down with the menopause, because I am now 49 and I'm definitely in the thick of that. And I was just like, I went to him and I said, help me to be more motivated, help me to kind of get stuff done that I need to get done because I'm procrastinating. And he said, what if that was okay? Which is not something you generally expect to hear from a coach, because I think we think of the concept of a coach as somebody who's going to kick our butts and make us do things and held us accountable and all that kind of thing. And this was a very different conversation. And for me, since having those conversations and coming to this understanding that's called the 3 principles, I just work so much more through my own intuition now, and I feel I can hear what's guiding me more than I've ever done before. And that is because my mind's a lot quieter. Because when we think we're supposed to be, the old should word is a corker in this one. When we think we should be doing this and we should be doing that and we should be doing the other, and I imagine at the moment, particularly for parents at home with small children who are being torn backwards and forwards between running their businesses or working or not working, and what they should be doing with the children, and trying to get children to do home education, which cannot be fun, particularly with primary children. If you know me, you'll know I used to be a primary school head teacher. There's a lot of shoulds about what's possible at the moment. There's a lot of we should be doing this and we should be doing that and we should be doing the other. And what happens then is when we think we should be doing something, then we have a lot of thoughts about that. But the first thing to know is that should that you're thinking is a thing, is that's made out of thought too. And it's possibly a thought that's being reinforced by lots of thoughts of other people as well. And we're surrounded by those, aren't we? Because if you read a post on Facebook, you're reading somebody's thoughts, and it's not true. If they're saying gravity exists, then clearly it's true because that's a fact. And if they're talking about the 3 principles, then it's definitely true because that's a fact too. But if they're just talking about their thoughts on something, it is just their thoughts that are coming out in the written word onto Facebook. So we get all these ideas about what we should be doing. We get them from our own personal expectations and our sense of who we are and our sense of failing if we don't do those things. We get all that from the noise of Facebook, the media, and the news. And obviously, there's lots of rules about what we should be doing in terms of how we're walking 2 meters away from people and all that kind of thing. And that's also another layer of shoulds. But all those shoulds are just thought. They're just like any other thought. They're just thinking and they're just made up. And all those shoulds that we beat ourselves up with are just often quite stress inducing. Our heads get very full of the shoulds and what we're not doing and what we should be doing. Our heads get very full of that. And as that happens, we stop being able to hear what's right for us. And that comes from your intuition. That comes from a different place. So I've heard this metaphor before, and I'd love to tell you which author shared it, but I can't remember because I've listened to so much about this stuff recently. So if you liken your thoughts, which feel, I think, like they're up here on top of your head, they're like a noisy orchestra sometimes. There's just so much thinking going on up here. And there's sometimes so much of it that noisy orchestra, there's just one little flute trying to play a little tune to you. That's your intuition. And you just can't hear it. You can't hear what's right for you because there's all this noise up here of what everybody else thinks you should be doing and your previous expectations and your previous experience of this and something that you maybe picked up when you were a child or whatever else. It's all just noise. And as you start to realize that noise is just noise, what happens without needing to do anything at all is that orchestra quietens down. Like I think some of the people who are playing the instruments go home, and the drum player goes home, and the trumpet is really noisy, and the trombone, they all go home, and it just gets a lot quieter. They're not in your head anymore. And when it gets quieter, then you hear your own innate wisdom. You can hear that little voice inside you that knows what's right for you, not the expectations of others, not the shoulds, not any of the rest of it. And the more you just realize that you don't have to be engaged with all that thinking, that you can. I almost find myself now just looking at it. It's like it's over here, my thinking, and I'm kind of looking at it and going, okay, that's interesting, but I don't actually have to hold on to that. It's not always, I'm not saying I can do that all the time. I absolutely can. I'm still human. But I can be more detached from my thinking and put things to one side a little bit more than I ever could before. And that means I can hear my innate wisdom. And what I actually feel it very physically now, that the noise that was, it feels like it's up here. And when I get trapped in my thinking, which I still do all the time, it definitely feels like I'm up in my head. Whereas when I feel an intuitive thought, it feels like it's coming from here. So if you can't see, I'm patting my heart, or my gut. It feels like it's coming from the present moment. It feels like it's coming from being guided, really, and being definitely mindful of what's right for me. And there's nothing to do to make this happen. Like I do meditate and I guide meditation on here, but that's almost like a game now. It's like a game of playing around with creating more gaps between thoughts, because every time I focus on my breathing, I'm just observing my thoughts less. So probably as many thoughts are maybe popping into my head, but I'm not noticing them because I'm focusing on my breathing. So when I do that, it's about developing more of that awareness that it is just thinking. And look at how random it is when it pops up. And if you do spend a few moments in silence, you will notice the randomness of your thoughts. You may well have seen my video the other day about cauliflower-based pizza and the thoughts of those that came into my mind. that were just so random and so out of place and out of context. And who knows why they were there? They were just there. So as you look towards this understanding that thoughts are creating your reality and that thoughts are randomly generated, it gets easier and easier to just let them go. So thoughts that perhaps you previously would have hooked into and made part of your story that you're telling yourself about the world, you just don't hook into them quite so much as you perhaps used to. And then they just appear to be less. There are less. And then as your mind quietens, without you really needing to do anything at all, just by understanding this understanding and believing it, then what happens is you can hear your own intuition. And everything I've said today has not been scripted or written beforehand. It's just what's come from my heart out to you. So I guess I still have a couple of people watching that. It would be interesting to know whether that makes sense. Whether you are able to observe some of your own thinking, whether you've noticed the randomness of thought. And maybe what you notice when you get a moment of quiet. And that moment of quiet doesn't have to come from actually sitting in silence. That comes sometimes from just doing something you get really engaged in. So sometimes I get an insight during yoga because I am focusing on my breathing and my body. I'm very in the moment. Sometimes it's when I'm walking. Often, my posts that I write for social media come after a walk or meditation or yoga. So just find moments in your day when you just settle really into the present and really be with what you're doing, and notice what comes up as your mind happens. I love that, Julie. So Julie says it does make sense, and whether she can do it or not is another matter. So what I would say to that, Julie, is there's nothing to do other than just keep that awareness that your thoughts, you don't have to do anything with your thoughts. You're still going to get thoughts. Some of them are going to be great and they're going to give you a little nice, pleasant feeling. Some of them are going to be a bit rubbishy and they're not going to make you feel good. But that's okay. The thing is to not jump on the back of every thought and think it's real. Because as you realize they're not real, then it just becomes easy to just let them pass by. It's like clouds floating across the sky. The beautiful blue sky is always there. Your well-being and your peace of mind is always there. But sometimes it gets clouded over with a bit too much thinking. And if you can just allow those thoughts to pass, then it gets easier and easier to just settle into your own inner peace. So just keep connecting with the content I'm putting out here, because that will help. Just the more different ways you hear it, I think that's what I found work for me, is just hearing it from different authors, hearing it from different speakers, from different podcasts, just connecting with it over and over again has allowed it to sink into my mind as just being the way that the mind works now. And now I know that it's easier to not get caught up in my thinking in the same way all the time. Of course, sometimes I still totally get caught in my thinking because that's just normal and fine, but definitely a lot less than I used to. So I hope you found that helpful. It's really nice to have people watching and joining in and chatting with me. I will be back tomorrow at 1ish to do the meditation. And then it'll be the weekend again already. I don't know about you, but it's going quite fast actually, time at the moment. But I think it just is what it is, isn't it? So as usual, I'll ask you to take care of yourselves and stay safe and enjoy this new kind of normal. Take care. So, and you know where I am if you just want to chat. Anybody? Okay. Take care. Thank you.